Hey guys, tonight we slip into the briny haze of a medieval fishing village, where the air smells of salt and seaweed, and the horizon hums with the promise of love woven through fish baskets and mossy stones. Picture yourself standing on a pebbled shore, the tide licking your boots, gulls screeching like they got village gossip to spill. The year's roughly 1350, and you're a villager in this damp, bustling speck of nowhere, your heart already snagged by a basket weaver with eyes like the sea after storm. Life here is tough. Mud, fish slime, and the occasional rogue wave mean you probably won't survive this without a good cloak. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your location and local time. I'm curious where you're drifting off from tonight. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake to the squawk of gulls and the rhythmic slap of waves against the wooden pilings of the village dock. Your bed, a lumpy straw pallet in a one-room hut, creaks as you roll out, your breath fogging in the chilly dawn. The village, let's call it Dunmere, a name historians might have scratched into some forgotten ledger, sits on a rugged coast, its timber and thatch huts clinging to a hillside like barnacles. You pull on woolen hose and a tunic that smells faintly of yesterday's fish, your boots squelching as you step into the morning mist. The air is thick with salt and the faint tang of peat smoke, curling from chimneys as the village stirs. Your heart, though, is already half a mile away, with her, the basket weaver, Ilara, whose fingers dance over reeds like they're spinning secrets. Dunmere's no romantic paradise. Medieval fishing villages were harsh, with most folks scraping by on what the sea coughed up. Historical records, like those from coastal England, show villages like this relied on herring and cod, with entire communities built around the daily haul. You're no noble. You're just another pair of hands and nets, your life tied to the tides. But there's a quirky tidbit. Villagers often use seaweed not just for fuel, but as a weirdly effective fertilizer, piling it on fields to coax barley from the sandy soil. Bet you didn't expect that when you signed up for this love story, huh? Historians still argue whether these villages were self-sufficient or secretly traded with far-off ports, smuggling goods under the nose of tax-happy lords. You shuffle down a path, the dirt churned to mud by last night's rain. The village is waking. Too. Old Meg, the alewife, hollers at a stray dog nicking her scraps, and a gaggle of kids chase a chicken past the baker's oven, its smoky warmth cutting the damp. You pass the church, a squat stone thing with a bell that clangs off-key, and your eyes dart to the market square ahead. That's where Alara sets up, her stall a tangle of willow and rush, her basket sturdy enough to hold a wriggling cod or a lover's hopes. You've watched her for weeks, her quick hands braiding reeds while she hums tunes nobody else knows. Is it creepy to notice her callous fingertips? Probably, but you're smitten, and in a village this small, everyone's business is everyone's drama. The square's already buzzing. Fishermen barter over mended nets, and a peddler with a cart of dubious relics, Saint's knucklebone anyone, tries to fleece a widow. You dodge a cartwheel spray of mud, muttering about how nobody's invented proper drainage yet. Ilara's there, under a sagging awning, her dark hair tucked under a linen cap. She's weaving a basket, her movements precise, like she's taming the reeds into submission. You linger nearby, pretending to inspect a pile of smoked herring, but really, you're stealing glances. She catches you, her lips twitching into a half-smile, and your stomach does a flip like a fish on a deck. You're not smooth, are you? No. You're the guy who tripped over a crab trap last week and got laughed at by half the village. You muster the courage to wander closer, kicking a pebble like it's your life's mission. Fine morning, you say, voice cracking like a teenager's. She nods, her eyes flicking to you, then back to her work. For now, she says, to the tide brings trouble. Her voice is low, warm, like the crackle of a hearth. You want to say something clever, maybe about her baskets being stronger than the king's navy, but your brain hands you nothing but fish puns. You're doomed. Still you linger, the market's chaos fading as you watch your fingers loop and pull, each twist a tiny spell. This is Dunmere, where love smells like brine and hope is as slippery as an eel. You're in deep, and the day's just begun. You trudge through the muck of Dunmere's main path, your boots sinking into the squelching mess that passes for a road in this medieval fishing village. The air's heavy with the tang of salt and the faint whiff of rotting fish heads, left to dry for some poor soul soup stock. It's mid-morning, and the market square is alive with the clatter of carts and the shouts of hawkers peddling everything from barley loaves to dubious healing salves. Your heart still thumping from that half-smile of Lara, the basket weaver, tossed your way earlier. Now, you're headed to her stall, a bundle of nerves masquerading as a villager with errands. The path's a gauntlet of mud and stray chickens, but you're determined to see her again, maybe even string two coherent sentences together this time. The village is a patchwork of noise and color. A blacksmith's hammer clangs in the distance, and a gaggle of women haggle over a basket of turnips like it's a royal decree. You sidestep a puddle deep enough to drown a rat. Cursing the lack of cobblestones, medieval infrastructure is not winning any awards. Historically, villages like Dunmere were economic hubs in their own small way, often bartering fish for grain or tools with inland towns. One quirky tidbit, they sometimes use fish bones as sewing needles, turning scraps into tools with a grim sort of ingenuity. Historians still argue whether these coastal hamlets paid taxes in coin or kind, like barrels of salted herring to keep the local lord happy. You reach the market, a cramped square ring by stalls sagging under weathered awnings. Ilara's stall is tucked in a corner, her basket stacked like trophies. Round ones for crabs, long ones for eels, all woven tight enough to hold water. She's there, her fingers flying over a half-finished basket, reeds bending under her callous hands. Her linen cap slipped back, letting a strand of dark hair curl against her cheek. You hover nearby, pretending to eye a pile of smoked mackerel. But really, you're memorizing the way she tucks that strand behind her ear. Smooth, you're not. You're the guy who once dropped a cod in front of the priest and got a week of penance for disrupting the peace. Back already? Ilara says without looking up, her voice teasing, like she's caught you stealing tarts. Your face heats up, and you mumble something about needing a new basket. Brilliant. She glances at you, her sea-green eyes sparkling with amusement. Yours got holes? She asks, holding up a basket so perfect it could shame a cathedral's arches. You nod, lying through your teeth, because your old basket's fine, but any excuse to linger feels like a victory. The market's chaos swirls around you. Two fishermen arguing over a torn net, a kid swiping an apple from a cart. But it's all background noise. Ilara's here, and you're trying not to trip over your own feet again. You lean against the post, aiming for casual, but probably looking like you're dodging a bee. How's business? You ask, immediately regretting it. What's next? Asking her about the weather. She shrugs, her fingers never pausing. Folks need baskets. Fish need catching. Keeps me busy. Her tone's light, but there's a weight to it, like she's carrying more than reeds. You've heard whispers. Village gossip travels faster than a storm. About her fending off suitors, maybe even a pushy merchant from the next town. Dunmere's small, but its tongues are mighty, and you wonder what she's not saying. A mainstream fact to ground us. Medieval fishing villages often had strict communal rules, like share boat maintenance, to ensure everyone survived the lean winters. You've seen it yourself. Old men barking orders about whose turn it is to patch the hulls. But there's a quirkier side. Some villages believed hanging a fish skull over a doorway warded off bad luck. You've got one above your hut's door, mostly because your neighbor swore it'd keep the spirits from stealing your nets. Does it work? Well, You haven't lost a net yet, but you're not tempting fate by taking it down. You try again, gesturing at her basket. You make those faster than I can gut a fish. Weak, but earns a chuckle, soft and warm like a summer tide. Practice, she says, and not tripping over traps helps. Ouch! She remembers the crab trap incident. You grin, leaning into it. Gives the crab something to laugh about. Her laugh's quick, like a pebble skipping across water, and you're hooked deeper than a cod on a line. You buy a basket, overpriced, but you don't care, and linger as she ties it with twine. The market's din fades, and for a moment, it's just you, her, and the scent of reeds and brine. Gossip swirls, though. A woman nearby mutters about Alara's fancy ways, probably jealous of her skill. You catch a name, Godric, a loudmouth fisherman who's been sniffing around her stall lately. Your stomach twists. Competition's not new in Dunmere, where every eligible soul's fair game for matchmaking or meddling. You clutch your new basket. It's weaved tight as your resolve, and head off, promising yourself you'll find a better excuse to talk tomorrow. The mud sucks at your boots, but your heart's lighter, even if it's tangled in thoughts of her. You're hauling nets with a crew of grizzled fishermen, the coarse hemp scratching your palms as the sun climbs higher over Dunmere's choppy bay. The dock's a chaos of slimy boards and creaking boats, the air thick with fish guts and salt spray. Your arms ache, but your mind's elsewhere, back at the market, where Alara's deft hands wove baskets and your clumsy words wove nothing but embarrassment. You're smitten, and every tug of the net feels like pulling your heart closer to her. The sea's a restless beast today, waves slapping the hulls like it's daring you to daydream. Focus, or you'll end up tangled in more than just rope. The fishermen around you are a rough lot, their faces weathered like old leather, shouting orders over the gulls' cries. You're part of the crew, dragging nets heavy with wriggling herring, your boots slipping on the slick deck. Medieval fishing was no joke. Records from the time show entire villages could starve if the catch failed, with herring being a staple traded as far as Flanders. Quirky fact. Some fishermen swore by chanting to the sea to lure fish, believing the rhythm soothed the spirits of the deep. You've tried it once, muttering nonsense under your breath, and got nothing but a smirk from old Hal, who said you'd scare the fish to France. Historians still argue whether these chants were superstition or a coded way to coordinate hauls without rival crews overhearing. You even net onto the dock, fish flopping like silver coins in the sunlight. Your crewmate, a barrel of a man with a beard like seaweed, grumbles about the tide being stingy. Barely enough to feed the cats, he mutters, kicking a bucket. You nod, but your eyes keep drifting to the village, where smoke curls from chimneys and Alara's probably still at her stall, weaving reeds and dodging gossip. You picture her fingers, quick and sure, and wonder they'd feel as steady holding your hand. Get a grip, you tell yourself. You're supposed to be gutting fish, not gutting your own dignity. The work's brutal, your hands raw from rope burns, but it's honest. You slice open a cod, its innards spilling like a bad omen, and try not to think about how you smell like a walking fishmonger. A joke bubbles up to lighten the mood. Why don't fish ever get lost? They always follow the current. What snorts, which is as close to a laugh as you'll get. You're not here for comedy, though. Every fish you gut means a few more coins, maybe enough to impress Alara with something better than a fishy pickup line. Maybe a new shawl? Or would that make you look desperate? Probably. You pause to wipe sweat from your brow, the sea breeze cooling your skin. The village hums in the distance. Kids shrieking, a cartwheel creaking, the faint clang of the blacksmith. You spot Godric, that loudmouth fisherman, strutting toward the market with a basket of his own catch. Your stomach knots. He's got a swagger like he owns the tides, and you've seen him linger at Alara's stall, tossing compliments like they're bait. Is she charmed? You hope not, But village gossip says he's got a better boat and a louder laugh. You're just you, with rope-burn hands and a heart that trips over itself. Another net lands with a wet thud, and you dive back into work, the rhythm of sorting fish calming your nerves. The sea's been fished for centuries, but here's a weird tidbit. Some villages use fish oil as a lamp fuel, stinking up huts worse than a week-old mackerel. You got clay lamp at home that proves it. Its smoky glow barely worth the reek. You glance at the horizon, where clouds are gathering like they're plotting something. A storm's brewing, maybe, and you wonder if Alara's stall is secure. Would she notice if you checked on it? Or would that make you the guy who's trying too hard? Yeah, probably. You crack another joke to shake the thought. Why'd the fish join the choir? It had the best scales. What rolls his eyes? But a younger lad chuckles, and you take it as a win. The day drags on, the pile of fish growing as your thoughts keep circling back to Alara. You imagine her weaving, her hands moving like a dance, and you wonder what it'd be like to sit beside her, sharing the quiet of a task done well. The net in your hands feels lighter for a moment, but then what barks at you to stop daydreaming? Fair enough. You're a fisherman, not a poet, but Alara's got you feeling like you could be both. For now, you haul another net, the sea whispering her name with every wave. You're lingering at Alara's stall. The markets bustle a dull roar around you as Dunmere's midday sun burns through the morning mist. The air's thick with the scent of smoked fish and fresh-baked bread, but all you can focus on is Alara, her fingers weaving a basket with the kind of grace that makes your clumsy gutting knife look like a child's toy. Your new basket, bought yesterday in a panic to have something to say, sits uselessly at your feet. You're here again, pretending to browse, but really, you're fishing for a smile, a word, anything to keep her sea-green eyes on you. The village hums with life, but you're caught in her orbit, heart thumping like a drum. Alara's stall is a small fortress of woven reeds, baskets stacked high, some dangling from the awning like trophies. She's focused, looping rushes with a rhythm that's almost hypnotic, her linen cap slipping to reveal that stubborn curl of dark hair. You lean against a post, aiming for nonchalance, but probably looking like you're dodging a tax collector. Medieval markets like this were the heartbeat of coastal villages, where fish, tools, and gossip traded hands faster than coin. A quirky tidbit. Some weavers use fish scales to add shimmer to their work, turning baskets into art for wealthier buyers. Historians still argue whether these markets were purely local or linked to bigger trade networks, sneaking goods past greedy lords. Still here? Alara says, not looking up, her voice carrying that teasing edge that makes your knees weak. You fumble for a reply, settling on, just checking your baskets. Quality control. Quality control? You wince. She smirks, setting down a half-finished basket. And she asks, finally meeting your eyes, passable, you say, grinning like an idiot. Her laugh soft, like pebbles rolling in the tide, and you're sure you'd trade every fish in Dunmere for another one. You're not smooth. Last week, you slipped on kelp and nearly took out her stall. She hasn't let you forget it. You point to a small, tightly woven basket, perfect for crabs. How long to make that one? You ask, mostly to keep her talking. A morning, she says, if the reeds behave. She holds it up, inspecting her work, and you notice a faint scar on her knuckle, probably from a sharp reed. You want to ask about it, but your tongue's tied tighter than her knots. Instead, you blurt, bet you could weave a net to catch the moon. She raises an eyebrow, amused. Moon's too fickle. I'd settle for fish. You chuckle, but inside, you're cursing your poetic streak. Who talks like that? Apparently, you do. The market's a swirl of chaos. Two women barter loudly over a sack of barley, and a stray dog sniffs at a spilled pile of fish guts. You spot Godric, that swaggering fisherman, haggling nearby, his voice booming like he's announcing a royal decree. Your gut twists. He's been circling Alara's stall too often, dropping compliments like they're bait. Yesterday, you heard him brag about his boat's haul, like you couldn't match it. You're no slouch with net, but Godric's got charm and a louder laugh. You're just you, with a basket you didn't need, and a heart that's tripping over itself. To lighten the mood, you try a joke. Why don't baskets ever lie? They're too tightly woven. Alara snorts, shaking her head. Keep fishing for compliments, she says, but her smile's warm and you take it as a win. You linger, asking about her weaving tricks, and she humors you, explaining how she soaks the reeds to make them pliable. It's practical, but the way she talks, her hands gesturing like they're still weaving, feels like a spell. You're hooked, and not just on her craft. A mainstream fact. Medieval weavers were often women, their skills keeping villages functional, from baskets to nets. But Alara's work stands out, each piece sturdy yet beautiful, like she's pouring herself into every twist. Gossip drifts over from a nearby stall. Two women muttering about Alara's independent ways, as if weaving baskets makes her a rebel. You catch a hint about Godric's interest, and your chest tightens. Is she falling for his bravado? You hope not, but doubt's a sneaky eel, slipping into your thoughts. You try another joke to shake it off. Why'd the crab by your basket? It wanted a new home. She laughs again, and for a moment, the world's just you, her, and the scent of reeds. You buy another basket, because why not, and promise to return tomorrow. As you walk away, the market's din swallows you, but her smile lingers, brighter than the sun glinting off the bay. You're out on the sea, the wooden fishing boat creaking beneath you as Dunmere's coastline shrinks to a smudge of green and gray. The waves roll, gentle but restless, slapping the hull like they're testing your nerve. You're with a small crew, pulling oars and checking nets, the salt spray stinging your face. Your hands are raw from yesterday's haul, but your heart's adrift, caught in thoughts of Alara. Her quick fingers weaving baskets, her teasing smile that makes you forget how to speak. The sea's rhythm mirrors the thud of your pulse, each wave whispering her name as you scan the horizon, half expecting to see her standing on the shore. The boat's a sturdy thing, built from oak and patched with pitch, but it's no luxury cruise. Medieval fishing boats, like those along England's coast, were small, open vessels, designed for short trips to snag herring or cod. You're hauling a net, its weight promising a decent catch, while the crew, gruff men with salt-crusted beards, bark orders. A quirky tidbit. Some fishermen tied charms, like shells or knotted twine, to their boats for luck, believing they'd appease the sea spirits. Your boat's got a chipped stone dangling from the prow, though you're not sure if it's magic or just someone's bad carving. Historians still argue whether these charms were pure superstition or a way to mark boats in crowded harbors. You lean into the oar, muscles burning, and try to focus. The sea's a fickle partner. One day generous, the next stealing nets like a thief. You glance at your crewmate, who's muttering about the wind shifting. Storm's sniffing us, he grumbles, squinting at the clouds. You nod, but your mind's back in the market, replaying Alara's laugh when you fumbled that moon-catching line. You're no poet, but she makes you want to try, even if your best effort sounds like a fishmonger sales pitch. You crack a joke to lighten the mood. Why is the sea so moody? Too many fish breaking at heart. What snorts? But the youngest lad, Tom, grins, his freckles bright against his sunburned face. The net comes up, heavy with silver herring, their scales glinting like coins. You sort them into baskets. Alara's baskets, you note with a pang, they're tightweave holding firm. You imagine her making them, her hand steady as she twisted reeds, maybe thinking of you, or not, probably not. You're just a guy who bought 2 baskets in 2 days, like a fool with too many coins. Still, the thought of her keeps you warm as the wind picks up, chilling your damp tunic. You picture her at her stall, dodging Godric's loud compliments, and your grip tightens on the net. He's got a bigger boat, sure, but you've got, what? A knack for tripping over crab traps? Great. A mainstream fact anchors you. Fishing was the lifeblood of villages like Dunmere, with entire families working the trade, from mending nets to salting catches. But the sea's dangers were real. Storms could sink boats, leaving widows to weave or beg. You've seen the villages weathered crosses, marking those claimed by the deep, to shake the grim thought. You try another joke. Why don't fish trust banks? They prefer the current. Tom chuckles, but what just grumbles, hauling another net? You follow suit, the work grounding you even as your thoughts drift to Alara. You wonder what she'd think of you out here, battling the sea like some half-drowned hero. The clouds thicken and the waves grow choppy, rocking the boat enough to make Tom pale. You secure the baskets, tying them down with rope, and think of Alara's hands. Would they be as steady on a boat? You've heard gossip that she's no stranger to the shore, sometimes gathering reeds at dawn, her skirts damp with tide water. Maybe you'll see her there one day, sharing the quiet of the morning. For now, you row back toward Dunmere, the village's smoky haze coming into view. The catch is decent, but your real prize is the hope of seeing her again, maybe stealing another moment at her stall. The sea's got its hooks in you, but Alara's got you deeper, and you're not sure you want to escape. You're at the village feast, the heart of Dunmere pulsing under flickering torchlight as the sun dips below the horizon, painting the sky in streaks of amber and bruised purple. The air's thick with the scent of roasted fish, barley stew, and the sharp tang of ale, all mingling with the salty breeze off the bay. Long tables, rough-hewn and wobbly, are crammed into the market square, where villagers laugh, argue, and shove bread into their mouths like it's their last meal. You're here, wedged between a chatty baker and a fisherman who smells like he bathed in cod. But your eyes keep drifting to Alara, sitting across the square, her face glowing in the firelight as she passes a bowl to a neighbor. Her smile's a hook, and you're caught, heart flopping like a fish on the dock. Feasts like this were rare in medieval villages, often tied to a good haul or a saint's day. Tonight's probably the latter, though nobody's clear on which saint. Historical records show these gatherings strengthen community bonds, with everyone pitching in food or labor. A quirky tidbit: some villages serve fish pie, with heads poking out for decoration, which sounds like a nightmare to you. Historians still argue whether these feasts were purely communal or a subtle way for village elders to flex control, doling out food to keep folks loyal. Either way, you're just glad for the excuse to be near Alara, even if you're stuck dodging the baker's endless tales about sourdough. You clutch a wooden mug of ale, its bitter warmth loosening your nerves. Alara's laughing at something her friend says, her hair loose tonight, catching the torchlight like dark waves. You're trying not to stare, but it's hard when she's the brightest thing in Dunmere. You shift, pretending to listen to the baker drone on about yeast, but really, you're plotting how to get closer without looking like a lovesick puppy. Too late for that, probably. You're the guy who bought 2 baskets and tripped over a crab trap. Your reputation's not exactly heroic. The feast is loud. Kids dart between tables. A fiddler scrapes out a tune that's more enthusiasm than skill, and someone's uncle is already arguing about whose boat's fastest. You spot Godric, that swaggering fisherman, a few seats down, his laugh booming as he slaps a mate's back. He's too close to Alara for your liking, leaning over to say something that makes her smirk. Your stomach twists like a knotted net. Is she charmed? You hope it's just politeness, but doubt's a sneaky eel, slithering into your thoughts. You take a swig of ale and try a joke to calm yourself. Why'd the fish skip the feast? It heard the pie was a trap. The baker chuckles, but you're not sure he got it. You muster courage and stand, weaving through the crowd with a plate of bread and smoked herring, an excuse to drift toward Alara. The ground's uneven and you nearly trip. Classic you, but recover with a sheepish grin. Room for one more? You ask, nodding at the bench near her. She glances up, her eyes catching the firelight, and shrugs. If you don't spill that ale, she says, her tone teasing but warm. You sit, closer than you've ever been, the heat of the crowd and her presence making your head swim. You offer her some bread, and she takes it, her fingers brushing yours for a heartbeat. It's nothing, but it feels like everything. A mainstream fact grounds a scene. Medieval feasts often doubled as matchmaking grounds, with young folk like you eyeing each other under the guise of passing stew. But there's a quirkier side. Some villages believed sharing food under a full moon sealed friendships or more. Tonight's moon is half hidden by clouds, but you're tempted to believe the old tales, especially with Alara so close. You try another joke, leaning in. Why is the ale so chatty? It's had too many hops. She snorts, covering her mouth, and you feel like you won the whole feast. You talk, awkwardly at first, about the day's catch, her latest basket, anything to keep her smiling. She teases you about your market lingering, and you admit, maybe I like the view. Bold for you. Godric's voice cuts through, loud and grating. As he boasts about a massive cod he swears he caught alone. Alara rolls her eyes, and you take heart. She's not falling for his bluster. The feast rolls on, torches burning low, and you stay by her side, stealing glances as the village laughs and sings. For now, Dunmere's chaos feels like home, and Alara's laughter is the warmest thing in it. You're out under the moon, its pale light silvering the pebbled shore of Dunmere's Bay, where the sea whispers secrets against the rocks. The village sleeps, its huts dark save for the occasional flicker of a dying hearth. You're alone, crouched by a pile of fishing nets, your fingers fumbling with hemp cord as you mend a tear by the glow of a single rushlight. The air's cool, scented with salt and damp moss, and your breath fogs as you work. You've snuck out here after the feast, partly to fix the nets before dawn, but mostly hoping Alara might join you. Her laughter from the feast still rings in your ears, and you're chasing that warmth, even if it's just a fool's hope in the quiet night. Mending nets is tedious, the kind of task that numbs your hands and mind, perfect for a sleepless heart. Medieval fishermen relied on well-kept nets, as a single tear could mean a lost haul and hungry families. Historical records from coastal villages show entire households, kids included, pitched in on repairs, often by moonlight to save daylight for fishing. A quirky tidbit. Some believe weaving a strand of seaweed into a net brought good luck, though you're skeptical. It's probably just a way to justify the smell. Historians still argue whether these nighttime tasks were practical or tied to moonlit rituals, maybe to honor the tides or appease restless spirits. Your fingers slip, the cord snagging on a callus, and you mutter a curse under your breath. The rushlight sputters, casting jittery shadows across the nets, and you glance toward the village, half expecting to see Alara's silhouette. You're not sure why you thought she'd come. Something about the way she lingered at the feast, her eyes catching yours when you passed her that bread. You're no knight in shining armor, just a fisherman with rope-burned hands and a heart that's tripping over itself. Still, you imagine her here, sitting cross-legged, her deft fingers making your clumsy knots look like child's play. To shake the silence, you try a joke, muttering to the nets. Why'd the fish hate the net? It kept catching feelings. You snort your own lameness, the sound swallowed by the waves. The night's quiet, save for the sea's rhythm and a distant owl hooting like it's judging your life choices. You picture Alara weaving her baskets, her hands quick and sure, and wonder if she ever thinks of you when the village goes still. Probably not. She's got half of Dunmere's bachelors buzzing around her stall, especially Godric, with his loud laugh and bigger boat. Your stomach twists at the thought, like a fishhook caught in your gut. A mainstream fact anchors you. Nighttime work like this was common in fishing villages, as the tides didn't care about sleep schedules. You've seen old men nod off midnight, only to wake and keep going. But there's a quirkier side. Some villagers swore the moon's phases affected the catch, fishing hardest under a waxing gibbous for reasons nobody could explain. Tonight's moon is nearly full, its light glinting off the water, and you wonder if it's true. You tie another knot, tighter than necessary, and glance at the path again. No Alara, just you, the nets, and the sea's endless murmur. A twig snaps behind you, and your heart leaps. You turn, rushlight wobbling, but it's just a fox, its eyes glowing before it darts into the shadows. You laugh at yourself, jumpy as a minnow. Another joke slips out. Why is the sea so calm at night? It's dreaming of fish. The nets don't laugh, but the work keeps you steady, each knot a small defiance against the ache in your chest. You think of the feast, her fingers brushing yours, and tie faster, as if you could weave your hopes into the hemp. Maybe she's asleep, dreaming of baskets, or, wild hope, you. Maybe she's awake, like you, restless under the same moon. Footsteps crunch on the pebbles, softer this time, and you freeze. It's her, Ilara, wrapped in a woolen cloak, her hair loose and catching the moonlight. "Can't sleep?" she asks, her voice low, like she's part of the night itself. You stammer. Nets won't mend themselves, and gesture at your pile, hoping you don't look as flustered as you feel. She kneels beside you, inspecting your work with a raised eyebrow. "Sloppy," she teases, but she picks up a cord, her fingers moving like they were born for this. You're doomed, and the moon's the only witness to your heart's quiet surrender. The sky's turning bruise dark, clouds piling like an angry mob over Dunmere's Bay, and you're rushing to Lara's stall as the first gusts of a storm whip through the village. The air smells of rain and churned sea, sharp enough to sting your nose, and the market's in a frenzy. Vendors tying down awnings, women snatching laundry from lines, and a stray goat bleating like it auditioning for a tragedy. You're weaving through the chaos, your cloak flapping, heart pounding not just from the wind, but from the thought of Lara's stall, its flimsy awning no match for what's coming. You saw her this morning, weaving baskets with that focused calm, and now you're determined to help, hoping she'll notice you're more than a guy who trips over traps. Storms were a brutal fact of life in medieval fishing villages like Dunmere, often wrecking boats or flooding huts. Historical records from coastal England show communities banding together to brace for tempests, sharing ropes and manpower to save what they could. A quirky tidbit. Some villagers tossed offerings, like fish or knotted reeds, in the sea to appease storm spirits, a practice half prayer, half desperation. Historians still argue whether these rituals were widespread or just the quirks of isolated hamlets like yours. You've never tried it, but right now, with the wind howling, you might chuck a whole cod overboard if it had calmed the skies. You reach the market, dodging a cartwheel that's half stuck in mud. Ilara's there, wrestling with her awning as it flaps like a trapped gull. Her hair's loose, whipping across her face, and she's muttering curses you didn't know she knew. "Knee a hand," you call, louder than the wind. She glances over, her sea-green eyes narrowed against the gusts, and nods. "Unless you're planning to fall on it," she says, her tease cutting to the storm's roar. You grin. Despite the sting, your crab trap tumble is village legend now. You grab a rope, tie it to a post, your hands clumsy but determined. The two of you work fast, securing the awning and stacking her baskets under a tarp. Your shoulders brush as you reach for the same rope, and your heart skips like a stone across water. She doesn't pull away, just keeps tying knots, her fingers surer than yours. "You're not bad at this," you say, trying to sound casual. "Better than you," she shoots back, but her smile's warm, like a hearth in this damp chaos. You laugh. And for a moment, the storm's just background noise. To lighten the mood, you try a joke. Why is the storm so loud? It's got too many waves to make. She snorts, shaking her head, and you feel like you've won something better than a dry stall. A mainstream fact grounds the scene. Storms often force villages to rebuild, with communal efforts like these strengthening ties or sparking rivalries. You spot Godric across the square, hauling barrels for another vendor, his loud voice carrying even over the wind. He's been sniffing around Alara too much, and you wonder if he's helping just to one-up you. Your gut twists, but you focus on the task, tie another knot as rain starts to spit. Ilara's close, her cloak damp, and you catch a whiff of reeds and salt on her. You want to say something clever, but your brain's stuck on how her hands move, quick and steady, like she's taming the storm itself. The wind picks up, rattling the stalls, and a basket tumbles free. You lunge, catching it before it hits the mud, and Alara's laugh rings out, sharp and bright. "Not bad," she says, taking it from you, her fingers grazing yours again. Your face heats up, and you mutter, "Just keeping the crabs happy." Another joke slips out. Why'd the basket run? It heard the storm's bad news. She chuckles, and you're sure you'd face 100 tempests for that sound. The market's emptying now, vendors fleeing to their huts, but you stay, helping her secure the last of her goods. The rain's coming harder, and you both know it's time to find shelter, but neither of you moves just yet, caught in the storm's edge and something unspoken. You're huddled with Alara in a cramped hut, the storm outside hammering the thatched roof like an impatient creditor. Rain drums the walls, sneaking through cracks to pool on the dirt floor, and the air smells of damp wool and peat smoke from a smoldering hearth. You're both soaked, your cloak heavy as a wet dog, but you're here, shoulder to shoulder with her, the basket weaver who's got your heart tangled tighter than a fisherman's knot. The hut belongs to old Meg, the alewife, who's off helping neighbors batten down their homes. It's just you and Alara now, sharing the flickering warmth. The storm's roar fading into a strange, cozy quiet as you trade stories to keep the chill at bay. Medieval fishing villages like Dunmere were no strangers to storms, often using communal huts as refuges when gales tore through. Historical records show these shelters doubled as meeting spots, where gossip and plans were swapped over shared fires. A quirky tidbit. Some villagers believe storms were stirred by sea spirits angered by a bad catch, and they whisper apologies to the waves afterward. Historians still argue whether these beliefs shaped village rituals or were just tales to scare kids. You're not sure you buy it, but with the wind howling like a wrong ghost, you're half tempted to mutter a sorry to the sea yourself. Alara is sitting cross-legged on a straw mat, her damp cloak draped over a stool, her hair curling wild from the rain. You're trying not to stare, but the firelight dances on her face, and it's hard to focus on anything else. Ever been caught in a worse one? You ask, poking the fire to seem useful. She shrugs, her voice low like the storm's hum. Once, when I was a kid, lost a whole stall's worth of baskets. Her eyes flick to you, and she adds, "You'd probably have tripped over them first." You laugh, the jab landing soft. Your crab trap fumble is Dunmere's favorite story, and she's milking it. You share a tale of your own, a time you nearly sank a boat misjudging a tide, earning a week of glares from the crew. She counters with a story of weaving her first basket, a lopsided thing that leaked crabs like a bad secret. You both chuckle, the hut feeling warmer, smaller, like the world just you two and the crackling hearth. To keep it light, you try a joke. Why is the storm so grumpy? It's tired of raining on our parade. Alara snorts, shaking her head, and you feel like you've caught a prize fish. The fire pops, sending sparks up, and you wonder she feels this pull too, or if you're just a fool reading signs in the smoke. A mainstream fact grounds a moment. Storms often force villagers to share resources like food or shelter, strengthening communal ties. This hut's proof. Meg's left a pot of barley porridge by the fire, and you both dip into it, the warmth spreading through you. But there's a quirkier side. Some believe storms cleanse bad luck, washing away curses or feuds. You glance at Alara, wondering if his rain could rinse away Godric's shadow, that loudmouth fisherman who's been circling her like a shark. You heard him at the feast, boasting near her, and you get twisted at the thought of him charming her with his bigger boat and bigger ego. You try another story about the time you found a weird shell shaped like a heart and kept it, half believing it was lucky. Alara listens, her eyes soft, then tells you about a reed bed she found at dawn, hidden by mist, like the sea was sharing a secret. Her voice is calm, almost sleepy, and you're hanging on every word, the storm outside fading to a murmur. You toss in another joke. Why'd the rain stop by? It wanted to crash our party. She laughs, quieter now, and leans closer, her shoulder brushing yours. It's nothing, but it's everything, and you're sure your heart's louder than the thunder. The storm's easing, the rain softening to a patter, but neither of you moves. You talk on about Net's baskets, the way the sea looks at dusk, until the fire's just embers. Alara's stories weave into yours. And for now, Dunmere's chaos, Godric's swagger, all fade. It's just you, her, and the hut's fragile warmth, holding the storm at bay. You're back at the shore, the storm's aftermath leaving Dunmere's beach strewn with seaweed and splintered driftwood. The air sharp with salt and the faint rot of washed-up fish. The sky's cleared to a pale gray, and you're knee-deep in the muck, repairing nets torn by the gale's tantrum. Your hands move clumsily, hemp cords slipping through your fingers, but your heart's lighter after last night's refuge with Alara, her stories and laughter still warming you like a lingering hearth. She's not here. She's likely at her stall, salvaging what she can. But her weaving skills are on your mind, and you're hoping she'll show up to help with these knots, her deft hands putting your fumbling to shame. Net repair was a lifeline in medieval fishing villages like Dunmere, where a single rip could mean a week's hunger. Historical records show entire families worked on nets, often pooling skills to patch them faster. A quirky tidbit. Some villagers wove charms, like shells or feathers, into nets, believing they lure fish or fend off storms. You got a bit of seaweed knotted into yours, less for luck and more because it got tangled yesterday. Historians still argue whether these charms were practical markers or pure superstition, a debate as old as the tides. You're not sure, but after that storm, you're not cutting the seaweed out just yet. The beach is busy. Fishermen curse over broken oars. Kids scavenge driftwood, and gulls screech like they're claiming the wreckage. You're wrestling with a stubborn knot, your fingers raw, when you spot Alara approaching, a bundle of reeds under her arm. Your heart does that annoying skip, like a fish dodging a hook. Thought you'd need better hands, she calls, her voice carrying that teasing lilt that makes you forget how to tie a square knot. She kneels beside you, inspecting your work with a mock frown. This net's more whole than rope, she says, and you grin caught. Blame the storm, you mutter, but you're glad she's here, her presence brighter than the weak sun overhead. She starts weaving cord into the net, her fingers quick and sure, turning your mess into something seaworthy. You try to keep up, mimicking her loops, but it's like watching a hawk soar while you're a clumsy pigeon. Show me that knot again, you ask, mostly to keep her close. She demonstrates, her hands brushing yours, and you're sure the sea itself pauses to watch. To lighten the mood, you try a joke. Why is the net so shy? It's full of holes. Alara laughs, soft and bright, and you feel like you've caught a prize bigger than any cod. You work together, the rhythm of her weaving syncing with your clumsy ties, and it's almost like a dance, if you ignore your two left hands. A mainstream fact anchors the scene. Nets were a village's backbone, often repaired communally to ensure everyone ate. But there's a quirkier side. Some believe in net mended by a skilled weaver, like Alara, carried luck, as if her craft charmed the fish themselves. You're half convinced it's true, watching her turn chaos into order. Across the beach, you spot Godric, hauling a broken oar and shouting orders like he's king of the tides. He's been too close to Alara's stall lately, his boasts louder than the storm's roar, and your gut twists. Is she helping you because she wants to, or is this just neighborly duty? Doubt's a slippery eel, but you push it down, focusing on the net. You try another joke to keep things light. Why'd the fish hate my net? It heard I'm a bad catch. Alara chuckles, shaking her head, and says, "Keep fishing, you might surprise someone." Her words linger, and you wonder there's a hint in them, or if you're just a fool reading tides in a puddle. You work on, her hands guiding yours through a tricky knot, and the beach feels smaller, the world just you, her, and the net between you. The sea's calm now, lapping gently, and you hope this moment holds, even as Godric's shadow looms and the village buzzes with its usual gossip. You're at the village festival, the air alive with the twang of a lute and the thump of feet on Dunmere's market square, now transformed into a swirl of color and chaos under a fading summer sky. Torches flicker, casting golden shadows on laughing faces, and the scent of roasted fish and honey bread mingles with the ever-present brine of the sea. You're in the thick of it, your boots scuffing the dirt as you move through the crowd, your heart tethered to Alara, who's somewhere in this merry mess, her laughter cutting through the noise like a gull's cry. The festival's a rare break from the grind of nets and storms, and you're hoping to dance with her, to feel her hand in yours, even if you're about as graceful as a beached cod. Medieval festivals like this were bursts of joy in harsh lives, often tied to harvest or holy days, with dancing and feasting to knit the village tighter. Historical records show music and simple reels were common, with everyone from kids to elders joining in. A quirky tidbit. Some villages believe dancing under a waxing moon ensured good fishing, as if the sea cared about your footwork. Historians still argue whether these festivals were pure celebration, or a way for local lords to keep villagers content without coin. You don't care about the politics tonight, just Alara, whose smile at the storm-sheltered hut still warms your bones. You spot her near a bonfire, her dark hair loose, catching the firelight as she claps to the lute's tune. She's with friends, but her eyes skin the crowd, and you swear they linger on you for a heartbeat. You're no dancer. Last festival, you stepped on a baker's toes and got a week of stale bread as revenge, but for her, you'd try. You weave through the crowd, dodging a kid spinning with a stick, and reach her just as the musicians strike up a lively reel. "Care to dance?" you ask, voice cracking like a teenager's. She raises an eyebrow, smirking. "If you don't sink us both," she teases, but takes your hand, her callous fingers warm against yours. The dance is a whirl of steps you half know, your boots stumbling but her laughter keeping you upright. She moves like she weaves, sure, graceful, pulling you along like a tide. You're grinning like a fool, the world blurring to just her face, her eyes bright as the bonfire. To keep it light, you toss out a joke. "Why's the lute so happy? It's got all the strings attached." Alara laughs, her head tilting back, and you feel like you've caught the moon itself. The crowd spins around you, but it's her grip, her rhythm, that anchors you. You're not smooth. Your foot clips hers, and you mutter an apology, but she just laughs harder, steadying you with a hand on your arm. A mainstream fact grounds the scene. Festivals were social glue, where matches were made and feuds buried, often under the watchful eye of village elders. But there's a quirkier side. Some dancers wore bells on their clothes, believing the jingle scared off bad spirits. You're glad you skipped the bells. You're embarrassing enough. Across the fire, you spot Godric, his loud laugh cutting through the music as he spins another girl. He's got that swagger, his tunic cleaner than yours, and your stomach knots. Is Alara comparing you? Her hand tightens in yours, and you hope it's a sign, not just a dancer's pull. You try another joke. Why'd the fish skip the dance? It couldn't find its fin ants. She snorts, shaking her head, and you take it as a win. The reel ends, and you're both breathless, her cheeks flushed, her smile wide. You linger, reluctant to let go, and she doesn't pull away either. The crowd cheers for another tune, but you're caught in her gaze, the festival's noise fading to a hum. You want to say something bold, but all you manage is, "You're good at this." She grins, teasing, "Better than you at nets." You laugh, and for now, Dunmere's chaos, Godric's shadow, the village's gossip, falls away. It's just you, her, and the dance's fading rhythm, under a sky that feels like it's cheering you on. You're in your hut, the dim glow of a fish oil lamp casting jittery shadows on the wattle and daub walls, the air thick with a scent of smoke and damp straw. Dunmere's quiet tonight, the festival's echoes fading into the soft lap of waves beyond the village. You're hunched over a small workbench, your calloused hands fumble with a piece of driftwood and a bit of twine. Try and carve a charm for Alara, a crude pendant, shaped like a fish, because apparently you're incapable of not being painfully on brand. Your heart's thumping, nervous about giving it to her, worried she'll think it's silly or worse, pity you for trying. Last night's dance, her hand in yours, her laughter bright as a bonfire, has you bold enough to try this, but doubts creeping in like sea mist. Gift-giving in medieval villages like Dunmere was a subtle art, often loaded with meaning, friendship, courtship, or just smoothing over a feud. Historical records show small tokens, like carved wood or woven trinkets, were common, especially among folk too poor for coin. A quirky tidbit. Some believe the gift made from sea-found materials, like driftwood, carried the ocean's blessing, ensuring loyalty or luck. Historians still argue whether these tokens were heartfelt or strategic, a way to curry favor in tight-knit communities. You're not strategizing. You're just a lovesick fisherman hoping Alara doesn't laugh you out of her stall. The driftwood stubborn, splintering under your knife, and you curse softly, mindful of the sleeping village. The fish shape is questionable, more blob than cod, but you've etched a crude scale pattern and tied a loop of twine for her to wear it. You imagine her reaction. Will she smile like she did when you danced, or politely tuck it away to avoid hurting your feelings? You're no craftsman. Your hands are built for nets, not finesse. You think of her weaving, her fingers dancing over reeds, and wonder if this charm's too rough for her. Probably. You're the guy who tripped over a crab trap. After all, to shake the nerves, you mutter a joke to the empty hut. Why'd the fish get a necklace? It wanted to scale up its style. You snort, but the lamp's flicker feels like it's judging you. The village is still, save for a dog barking and the distant creak of a boat at the dock. You picture Alara at her stall tomorrow, her sea-green eyes catching yours, and your stomach flips. What if Godric's already given her something better? That loudmouth fisherman's got a knack for showing up, his boasts louder than a storm. You heard him at the festival, spinning tales of his latest haul, and you're sure he's plotting to win her over with more than words. A mainstream fact grounds you. Gifts in villages like this were often practical, doubling as tools or talismans, but they carried weight in courtship, signaling intent without words. Your charm's no masterpiece, but it's honest, carved from a storm-tossed scrap you found on the beach. There's a quirkier side. Some villagers believe the gift given at dawn, when the tide turned, sealed its meaning deeper. You're not sure you buy it, but you're half planning to slip this to Alara at first light, just in case. You try another joke to steady your hands. Why is the sea so generous? It keeps giving us driftwood. The charm's done, rough but yours, and you tuck it into your tunic, heart racing like you're facing a squall. You lean back, the straw pallet creaking, and stare at the ceiling, where shadows dance like waves. You replay the festival, her laugh, the way she didn't let go during the reel, and wonder if she feels this pull too. Gossip's been buzzing about her, whispers of suitors and her independent ways. But you're hoping this charm says what your tongue can't. You try one more joke, whispering to the lamp. Why'd the charm blush? It's got a crush on a weaver. You grin, but nerves coil tighter. Tomorrow, you'll find her at the market. Hand her this fishy token, and pray she doesn't toss it into the bay. For now, you blow out the lamp, the dark wrapping you like a tide, and hope for courage by dawn. You're weaving through Dunmere's muddy market, the morning air sharp with salt, and the chatter of vendors setting up after the festival's revelry. Your hand stuffed in your tunic, clutching the driftwood fish charm you carved last night, its rough edges digging into your palm like a warning. The square's a mess. Overturned barrels, trampled flowers, and a stray lute string glinting in the dirt. But your focus is on Alara's stall, where she's already weaving, her fingers dancing over reeds like they're telling secrets. Your heart's pounding, not just in the charm, but from the shadow of Godric, that loudmouth fisherman who's been circling her like a gull over scraps. He's here, leaning against a cart, his voice booming as he brags about a net he mended single-handedly. You're here to give Alara your gift, but jealousy's gnawing at you, and you're praying you don't fumble this worse than a crab trap. Rivalries were common in medieval villages like Dunmere, where tight-knit communities bred both loyalty and grudges over things as small as a borrowed boat or a stolen glance. Historical records show fishermen often competed for status, their hauls or skills of measure worth. A quirky tidbit. Some believe a rival's curse could tangle nets or sour a catch, leading to odd rituals like spitting over a boat's prow for luck. Historians still argue whether these competitions were just pride or tied to survival, with better fishermen winning better marriages or favor. You're no curse caster, but Godric's swagger makes you want to spin into the sea for entirely different reasons. You reach Alara's stall, dodging a kid chasing a chicken, and clear your throat. She looks up, her sea-green eyes catching the morning light, and smiles. Back for another basket? She teases, her hands never pausing. You grin, but your mouth's dry as old nets. Something else. You mumble, pulling out the charm. It looks even rougher in daylight. A lumpy fish with uneven scales, but you hold out, heart hammering. Made for you. You say, voice barely above a market's din. She takes it, her fingers brushing yours, and studies it with a raised eyebrow. A fish, she says amused. Very you. You're not sure that's good or bad, but her smile's warm, and you're not drowning yet. Godric's voice cuts through, loud as a foghorn, as he boasts to a vendor about his latest haul. You glance over, and he's watching you, his grin sharp enough to get a cod. Alara notices, her eyes flicking between you, and you feel like a fish on a hook. He's persistent, she says neutral, tucking the charm into her apron. Your stomach twists. Is she interested in him? You try a joke to keep it light. Why is Godric so loud? His ego's bigger than his boat. Alara laughs, soft and bright, and you take it as a small victory. But doubt's still there, slippery as an eel. A mainstream fact anchors the moment. Courtship in villages like this was a public affair, with everyone, neighbors, elders, rivals, watching and weighing in. Your charm's a bold move, signaling intent, but Godric's presence feels like a storm cloud. There's a quirkier side. Some believe the gift accepted under sunlight, like now, bound to giver and receiver closer. You hope it's true, but Alara's hard to read, her smile warm but her thoughts hidden. You linger, asking about her weaving stall, and she humors you, showing you a new basket pattern. You try another joke. Why'd the fish charm blush? It's hooked on you. She snorts, shaking her head, and you feel a spark of hope. Godric saunters closer, tossing a coin in his hand, and calls out, Ilara made you anything finer than reeds yet? His tone's light, but his eyes are on your charm, now dangling from her apron. She shrugs, saying, I like fish, and you could kiss the ground. He laughs, but it's forced, and he moves off, muttering about nets. You're not sure if you've won, but Ilara is still holding your charm, and that's enough for now. You try one more joke. Why is the market so nosy? It's got too many ears of corn. She chuckles, and you leave her stall. The charms wake on, but Godric's shadow lingering, as the village buzzes with its usual meddling. You're perched on a wind-swept cliff overlooking Dunmere's Bay, the sea below churning gray and restless, spitting foam against jagged rocks. The air's sharp with salt and the faint green of crushed moss under your boots, the wind tugging at your cloak like it's trying to steal your secrets. It's late afternoon, the sky bruised with clouds, and you're alone with Ilara, her dark hair whipping free as she stands a step away, gazing at the horizon. You brought her here, away from the village's prying eyes and Godric's loudmouth swagger, to confess your feelings, heart pounding like a drum, words tangling worse than a storm-tossed net. The driftwood fish charm you gave her swings from her belt, glinting in the fading light, and you're praying it's a sign she might feel the same, or at least not laugh you off this cliff. Cliffs like these were more than scenic in medieval coastal villages. They were lookout points for spotting shoals or storms, often doubling as places for private moments stolen from gossipy neighbors. Historical records note villagers used high grounds for everything from signaling boats to settling disputes. A quirky tidbit. Some believe confessing truths on a cliff, where sea and sky met, made them binding, as if the elements were witnesses. Historians still argue whether these spots were sacred or just practical, but you're hoping the old tales hold weight as you stand here, throat tight, ready to spill your heart. You shift, kicking a pebble that skitters toward the edge, and clear your throat. Ilara turns, her sea-green eyes catching yours, curious but guarded. Not here to trip over anything, are you? She teases, her voice soft against the wind's howl. You grin, despite the nerves gnawing at you like a hungry gull. Just my own words, you say, and she tilts her head, waiting. You take a breath, the sea's rhythm steadying you, and start. Ilara, you're more than baskets and reeds to me. You're the reason I linger at the market, why I'm out here making a fool of myself. Your face burns, and you're sure you sound like a bad bard. She doesn't laugh, just watches you, her expression softening. You push on, fumbling. That charm, it's nothing fancy, but it's me saying I want to be near you always. Your voice cracks, and you wince, expecting a gentle letdown. Instead, she steps closer, the wind pressing her cloak against you. You're not the only fool, she says, her smile small but real. I kept the charm, didn't I? Your heart leaps like a fish breaking water. But doubt still nips. Does she mean it, or is she just kind? To lighten the mood, you try a joke. Why is the cliff so romantic? It's got the best view of you. She laughs, the sound brighter than a fading sun, and you feel the world tilt in your favor. A mainstream fact grounds a moment. Courtship in villages like Dunmere often played out in quiet corners, away from meddling eyes, with cliffs or shores as common backdrops. But there's a quirkier side. Some believed a vow spoken where the sea could hear it carried extra weight, as if the tide sealed it. You're not sure you buy it, but with Ilara's hand brushing yours, you're ready to believe anything. Godric's shadow looms in your mind, his boast at the market still stinging, but her eyes are on you now, not him. You try another joke. Why'd the sea whisper to us? It's jealous of our spark. She snorts, shaking her head, and you're bold enough to take her hand, her calluses warm against yours. She doesn't pull away, just looks out at the sea, then back at you. You're trouble, she says, but her tone's warm, like she's weighing you against the wind. You're not sure if it's a yes or a maybe, but it's enough to keep you standing, the cliff's edge feeling less like a fall and more like a beginning. You try one more joke. Why is the wind so pushy? It wants us closer. She laughs again, and you hold her gaze, the village's noise, Godric's, the gossip, all of it, fading below as the sea roars its approval. You're back in Dunmere's heart, the market square alive with its usual clamor, vendors shouting, carts creaking, and gulls squawking like they own the place. The air's thick with fish and fresh bread, the sun low and golden, casting long shadows across the mud. You're walking beside Alara, her basket stall just behind you, the driftwood fish charm swinging from her belt like a quiet promise. After your cliffside confession, her smile's been softer, her teasing sharper, but the village's gossip is a net tightening around you both. Whispers swirl about you, her, and Godric, whose loud laugh still cuts through the crowd. You're navigating her hesitant heart and the village's meddling, hoping to seal your bond with Val as steady as her weaving. But it's like mending a net in a storm. One wrong move, and it unravels. Village gossip in medieval times was a force of its own, shaping reputations and matches with few well-placed words. Historical records show communities like Dunmere thrived on talk, where a courtship could be blessed or buried by nosy neighbors. A quirky tidbit. Some believe speaking of Val near a village well, where water heard it, made it unbreakable, a superstition tied to water's purity. Historians still argue whether gossip was a social glue or a weapon, but in Dunmere it's both. You feel every eye on you as you linger near Alara. You're no hero, just a fisherman with a heart full of hope and hands full of rope burns. Alara's weaving a basket, her fingers quick, but she glances at you, her sea-green eyes catching the light. They're talking, she says, nodding at two women muttering nearby, their eyes darting your way. You shrug, trying to play it cool. Let 'em. They've got nothing better. She smirks, but there's a flicker of worry in her gaze. Gossip can sink a budding love faster than a squall sinks a boat. You lean closer, pretending to inspect her basket. This one for me? You ask, voice low. She laughs, sharp and bright. Only if you stop tripping over traps. You grin. The crab trap incident a running joke you're happy to lean into if it keeps her smiling. Godric's nearby, bartering fish with vendor, his voice loud enough to wake the tides. He's been quieter since your cliffside moment, but his presence still stings like salt in a cut. You heard he tried giving Alara a polished shell yesterday, and she kept it out of politeness, you hope. Your stomach twists, but her hand brushes yours as she passes you a reed, and it's enough to steady you. To keep things light, you try a joke. Why is gossip like a net? It catches everything but the truth. Alara snorts, shaking her head, and you feel a spark, like you're weaving something stronger than reeds together. A mainstream fact anchors the scene. Courtship in villages like this was a dance of public and private, with gestures like gifts or shared tasks, signaling intent to everyone watching. Your charm, her keeping it, is as good as a shout to Dunmere's busybodies. There's a quirkier side. Some believe the vow made in a crowd, like this market, carried weight because the village itself bore witness. You're not ready for a full vow, but you test the waters, saying, I'm not going anywhere, Alara. Not unless you tell me to. Her eyes soften, and she says, Good. I'd hate to weave you a basket for nothing. It's not a yes, but it's close, and your heart's lighter than a gull on the wind. You try another joke. Why is the market so nosy? It's got too many fishy tales. She laughs, and the sound drowns out Godric's boasting. The village keeps buzzing. Women whisper. A kid steals an apple, and a dog barks at nothing. But you're focused on her, the way her fingers loop reeds, the way she's still wearing your charm. You help her stack baskets, your hands brushing hers, and murmur, We're tougher than their talk. She nods, her smile a quiet vow, and you feel it, a bond taking root, fragile but real, like a new net ready for the sea. As the sun dips, the market thins, and you linger, unwilling to break the moment. You try one last joke. Why'd the sea bless us? It's tired of Godric's noise. Ilara's laugh is softer now, her eyes on you, and you know it's settled, not with words, but with the quiet way at her hand near yours, the charm at her belt, the village's hum fading into the dusk. The light softens, the market's clamor easing into a gentle murmur, like the tide pulling back from Dunmere's shore. You're still beside Ilara, her stall now tidied, the last basket stacked under the awning. The air's cooler, scented with salt and the faint sweetness of her reeds, and the village settles into a sleepy rhythm, torches flickering out one by one. You feel her presence, steady as the sea's pulse, and your heart slows, content in this fragile, woven moment. The gossip, Godric's shadow, the world's noise, they drift away, like foam on a wave. You're here, she's here, and that's enough. Let the stars take watch. Let the sea hum its lullaby, and let your dreams carry you both, soft as moss, steady as a basket holding all you built. Sleep now, wrapped in Dunmere's quiet embrace, where love and tides keep their own gentle time.